Hey everybody, it is 2:25 p.m. on Monday, May 27th, 2024. It is Memorial Day here in the United States, and that is where we pay honor and tribute to the men and women who have lost their lives in war. And so I thought this would be a good time to do World Peace Tour Diaries number 9, Madeline Island. And if you haven't been following, my name is Barbara With, and I am, among other things, a peace pilgrim, I guess you'd call it. I left home on October 15th to go on what I call my World Peace Tour, where I've been taking this incredible body of work that I've been doing for the past 3 decades on world peace, one person at a time, starting with self. We call it conflict revolution, and taking this as far and wide as I can to generate the conversations and to bring the knowledge and the wisdom that I have acquired through all of these years. And I am a psychic medium. I've been working with a group called The Party, headed up by none other than Albert Einstein, for a very long time. And before that, it was the Psychic Sorority, two living people, Kim and Teresa and I, channeling the angels. And the angels gave us step-by-step instructions for world peace, one person at a time, starting with ourselves, and asked us to test their theory. And so that's where conflict revolution has arisen from. So on my world peace tour so far, it's been these are the stats that I've accumulated. So it's been 7 months, 23,395 miles, 7 countries. Oh, and yes, I've been pet sitting my way across the world using an app called Trusted House Sitters. And so I had 8 or 9 or 10, I can't remember, pet sits so far along the way. And I've had 16 dogs and 4 cats. I've taken 8 planes, 22 trains, 3 ferries. I've gone through 16 states and across 4,721 miles in a car. I don't know how many hours that is. And I can't tell you how many cabs I've taken. And I found myself in peace rallies in London, Ghent, and Paris. And while I was in London, I happened to be there when Julian Assange had his appeals trial back in February, so I was able to attend that rally, which was very profound and impacting on me as an independent journalist as well. Also, I've gotten books to Deepak Chopra. Yes, I was able to put one right in his hands and look him in the eye and say, read this book, and he said that he would. And also, I went to Ghent to drop a book off for Matthias Desmet, who is one of my heroes and my inspirations. He wrote a book called The Psychology of Totalitarianism and does a workshop called Truth Speak to try to counter the effects that propaganda are having on all of us. So I dropped one at his place in Ghent. I didn't see him. I didn't want him to think I was stalking him, but I really want him to read this information. I also was able to mail one while I was in the UK to David Icke. Sometimes I don't think that books get to people when they have to go through customs. I don't know what happens. But anyway, also, I got to make an appearance, a very small one, but nonetheless an appearance at the Science of Consciousness Conference in Tucson at the end of April, put on by the University of Tucson, Arizona Science of Consciousness Department. And that was an incredible honor and a learning experience. And long story short, I left there feeling like I was on the right track with my work with the unified field, with maps of human consciousness. And so far, nobody has come up with compassion as the 5th fundamental force of the universe. So that was very, very exciting. And then right when I closed the gap, I went from, when I came back from Europe, I went from Georgia to Tucson up through Taos and Colorado and back. And when I got to Madison, I'm not home yet, I was chosen to be one of the first 5 participants in a media column, I guess you would call it. And it's Tucker Carlson. He has a network of his own now, and a Ask Tucker segment where he's been answering the questions of his listeners. These things like, what's the best rifle for grouse hunting, and how do you raise a daughter, things like that. So I applied. I wanted to ask, do you believe in afterlife? And if you do you believe you can communicate with those who have passed on? And I was picked one of five out of 900 entries. So I got to have 5 minutes with Tucker and talk to him about what I think are these important conversations we have to have. Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. And now I'm back on Madeline Island. I'm not quite in my house yet, but I'm almost there. And I wanted to take this Memorial Day to share with you my thoughts about what I learned about world peace, traveling the world, taking care of dogs and cats. Because I learned so much more than I ever thought I wanted to know. And I can't share it all with you today, but I parboiled it down into just some salient points. Okay, number one, what I learned about world peace from sitting dogs and cats. First of all, we know world peace gets down to ourselves. So this isn't about negotiating peace treaties with Ukraine. This is about finding peace within ourselves. So first of all, no matter how lost you are, you can always be found in the most unexpected ways. And this comes from what I learned from my first sit, Red, in Redditch, UK. Red is a stray from Romania, from Bucharest. And I was in Bucharest for several years working and noticed how many doggies there were, how many stray dogs there were. So that really attracted to me to her. And the owner warned me that she's very skittish, you know how strays are. So of course I walk in the house and it's ruff, 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 and so she's just totally skittish and nervous until she's not. And then she's my best friend. So remember, no matter how lost you think you are, you can always be found in unexpected ways. I bet Red would never have thought back in the days when she was running around the streets of Bucharest that she would be living the rich and cushy life that she lives, surrounded by a family of people who just adore her. Number two, I learned we can all get along. Yeah, we can all get along. And I learned that from Bo and Millie and Rico in Rawtenstall, Wales. And Bo is a chocolate lab, and Millie is also a stray. And Rico is a wonderful old eccentric Siamese cat. And the thing that I loved and learned about them is they all went on walks together. We would tether up the dogs, and Rico would come along wherever we went, even when we went in the big field where all the other dogs ran. She would come in the field and hold her own quite nicely, and they slept in a pile as a pack, all three of them. So yes, we can all just get along. So number three, the more we're allowed to be free, the happier we're going to be. And I learned that when I was in Salisbury with Tanji and Sula, two red labs. Yes, red, not chocolate. Red labs, brother and sister. And these were the best trained dogs I have ever seen in my life. Twice a day, I would load them into the car and we'd drive out to the New Forest. Oh, the New Forest. Who knew? Probably you guys did. I didn't know about the New Forest. It was like this magical Merlin-like forest where the wild horses ran. And I would open the door, and those dogs would shoot out of there like they were shot out of a cannon, and they'd just go flying. But if I yelled their names, they would stop on a dime, turn around, and run back to me as fast as they ran off until they're sitting right in front of me. The best trained dogs I'd ever seen. And I thought, I wonder if it's because they get to run free that they know that even though sometimes they're confined, it's not the end of the world, it's not trauma, it's until the next time they're running free. Plus, their family has a house on a little island in Scotland that you can't even be in the winter, but they have the free run of that island too. So that made me think, yep, the more that we are allowed to be free, the happier and more well trained we're going to be. The fourth thing I learned is sometimes you just have to pivot. You know, in basketball, everything's coming at you and it's all spontaneous, and sometimes you just have to pivot because it's the right move that all the other moves dictate that you take. And you don't sit down in the middle of the court and go, should I have pivoted? I don't know. Did my parents teach me not to pivot when I? No, you just pivot, you go on, and you're back in the game. And sometimes that's what you have to do. And I learned that when I was sitting in Calais, which is in the northwest corner of France, for Jazz, Timba, and Mimi. Mimi was the delightful gray tabby cat. And Jazz and Timba were also both rescues. And their family love their dogs and have a lot of faith in their dogs, but I was told that Timba was a little nervous around other dogs. So be sure when you walked her that you didn't let her, get around the other dogs. Well, no, she was nervous around everything, anything that moved and anything that didn't move, fences, leaves, birds, people, dogs. She would go crazy and become uncontrollable. So sometimes you just have to pivot. So I pivot to getting up in the morning and walking her alone at 5 a.m. And even though all through my stay in Calais, it was sideways, it's cold, sleeting rain, dark, wet, dreary conditions, I got up every morning at 5 and I would walk her all by herself. So there was nobody around and it was the least amount of distraction for her. And so, yeah, sometimes you just have to pivot. Number 5, do not judge a book by its cover. Do not judge a dog by its appearances because they can be sitting there looking ever so cute with those big eyes and they seem like they're all happy and sweet and they want to be your best friend, and then they turn into the demon dog, which is what happened with Mally in Chester, UK. Oh my gosh. Again, the family had a great deal of faith in her, and she had a special call that you could call her and she would come for sure. And we tried it in the kitchen and it worked. And if she had trouble walking her, just put this leash, special leash around her nose. Sometimes there's nose leashes there. Oh no, there's no leash around her nose. There's no walking on a leash at all in any way, shape, or form. So I was supposed to walk her on the leash through these little cute little paths and around these fields out to the back 40 of open fields. And then I can let her go. And then when you want her to come back, you say this special call. Maybe. Memo. Second day, saw a bird. She was gone. Gone across the acres and acres of fields. I was mortified. It's your worst nightmare as a pet sitter. It took me an hour of running. Again, rain, freezing rain, dark and cold in the UK. Finally got her, but then I had to refer back to number 4, where I pivot and took her to the alternative walking site, which was much more like lanes between fields that were fenced. Yep, don't judge a book by its cover. Number 6, I learned that we have family everywhere around the world. We are family. I know that sounds like a 60s song, but it's true. We are one big family. And I don't mean the dysfunctional families that we all grew up in. I mean the family that God wants us to be, the loving people who take care of each other and understand each other and support each other and work together as a family, as a community, as a world together, that we really are. And you can find family everywhere. And I learned that in Dalbeattie, Scotland, when I was sitting for Carrie and Coco. And Carrie was an old spaniel, and Coco was an affectionate old Siamese cat. And Laura and Simon, their family, their human family, were absolutely wonderful. So warm and gracious and generous and funny and grateful that I was there. And I had a wonderful time. And little Carrie would lead me around town and the little walks we'd go on. Not many because she was getting up there in years. And Dalbeattie, what a beautiful little corner of the world. I wish I could have seen more of the world out there, but just remember that we are all family and you can find family anywhere. And number 7, we should all strive to be the best family member that we can be. And I learned this from my sit in Exeter, where I had a family of 4 red labs. Yoshi, Indy, Ted, and Rue. And Yoshi was the patriarch, the old papa who doddered along. He didn't go out on the walks with us. We also loaded up into the van and went out to the forest, but he didn't come with us because he was so old and a little bit incontinent. But we would go out, the rest of the 3 of us, the mom and the 2 kids, and they were always looking after each other, always playing with each other, having fun with each other, looking after their mom. And then when everyone would get back to the house, they'd all gather around Yoshi to sort of tell him about what a good time it was and make sure that he was doing okay. And it just reminded me that we really should strive to be the best family members that we can be. On this Memorial Day, when we are honoring the souls of those people who have died in war, I just want to say that there's a lot of those souls in the party. There's a lot of souls in the party that lived violent lives, that were killed in war, that want to be a part of bringing this change to the world once and for all. And as a psychic medium, I'm going to tell you what I hear them say as they gather today in honor of themselves and probably other lives that we've lived. I'm pretty sure I probably lived a life as a centurion at some point along the way, engaging in war. The message is that going to war does not work. I'm pretty sure that many of those souls who went to war thought they were doing a really good thing by standing up and defending their country. But I'm also sure that I hear them say, that is not the way. It does not work. It's only getting worse. We need a revolutionary new way to resolve our conflicts. And that's why I'm so excited about this work that I do. That's why I'm so excited about coming home for a few months and heading out again to see what kind of hijinks and how many thousands of miles I can cover in helping to influence people to want to make peace first and foremost within yourself. We cannot underestimate the importance of this work that sometimes it seems so minutia and it seems so trivial and it seems so ordinary, but this is exactly where it starts. We can't start with the world leaders. So conflict revolution and the tools that we have are that revolutionary way. And if you need those tools, come to us. We've got plenty of free content that explains it all to you. We've got books. We've got the Conflict Revolution workbook you can bring your own conflict into and plug it in, learn the process, plug it in, but then you have to be willing to do it. That's the trick, is you have to be the participation of the willing, and you will then take part in this worldwide movement to do a nonviolent action to end the age of war once and for all, starting with each of us and ourselves. And that is my message on Memorial Day. Let's make a new commitment, each of us, to every single day waking up, and after we say our prayer of gratitude, thank you for another day of the most miraculous life. I could never have dreamt up that a life that miraculous. And then you fully intend that you're going to use every ounce of your energy every day to intend the most magical, mystical, miraculous day that you can possibly manifest. And then set your intention to be the change and be the revolution. And as Einstein is always telling us, then we'll only need to watch and be amazed. Namaste.